Book 2, Danfon, by Matthew J. Canty. Prelude. Notice the trees for the forest for the trees. Chapter 1, Missing Emeraldo. Several months have passed since the battle between the Resistance and Jaggernaut's host. The king has stopped sending hosts of men out to attack outposts, and relative normalcy has returned to outposts. Bron, Jace, and Grandmaster are enjoying a lively game of Dazzle Elves chess between the two, Jace and Grandmaster. Ha! You are no match for me, Destroyer. Or Jason Bron, I should say. Ha! You are no match for me, Destroyer. Jace moves his Elf Knight forward, taking Bron's Elf Bishop. So you say, Jace, but I doubt you saw this coming. Bron replies, taking Jace's Elf Knight with his Elf Queen. Nearby, Bristle is enjoying a chicken drumstick, charring and eating it all at the same time. I'll play the winner, Grandmaster says, taking a seat next to the table where the Dazzle Elves' board and pieces rest. You'll be playing by me then. You'll be playing me then, Jace says loudly, moving his Elf Rook forward 5 spaces, putting Bron's Elf King into Elf Checkmate. Ah, you got me, Jace. Well played, Bron says concurrently, tipping his Elf King over in defeat. Before Grandmaster had a chance to rise from his seat, Sharon burst through the door, frantically saying, Has anyone seen Emeraldo? The three exchanged confused glances. No one had seen Emeraldo since yesterday, and their perplexed expressions only served to fuel Sharon's paranoia. Sharon, we haven't seen Emeraldo since yesterday. Where did you see him last? Bron asks. Sharon replies, Well, we were doing some training right outside Outpost Gate. Truth be told, Sharon had been too trusting with Emeraldo. Dragonlings are notoriously mischievous, and Emeraldo had probably wandered off in search of rats or opossum to snack on. It was not a big deal, but Bron was a little upset, because as dragon tamers, it was their job to look after their dragonlings until they grew big enough to take care of themselves, without the need of a tamer. Sharon, you really ought to watch Emeraldo more carefully. King Danfon is probably sending scouts out daily to patrol outposts and steal the dragons back for his own use. Bron chastised Sharon. I will, Bron. Trust me, King Danfon will not be stealing Emeraldo, Sharon says, looking for some approval from her fellow tamer. Fine, Sharon. We'll look for him together. I'll bring Bristle, too, Bron replies. From Bristle, feelings of concern and worry were flooding Bron's mind, enhancing the worry he already felt about the missing Emeraldo situation. Jason, Grandmaster, you both wait here. We'll be back with Emeraldo, Bron says, exiting the hall with Sharon and shutting the dragon door behind him. Chapter 2, Emeraldo Found. Sharon and Bron crossed through the common areas surrounding Grandmaster's Hall, reaching Outpost Gate. The birds in the surrounding forest could be heard tweeting away on the branches in the trees. Poor Emeraldo. Baby is probably so scared right now, Sharon says, looking around frantically for Emeraldo to appear in the leaves. Do not fret, Sharon. We'll find him, Bron says, walking beside Sharon on the warm path, leaves on the ground surrounding him. They reached the forest clearing, and to their delight, there was Emeraldo. The dragon had grown considerably in the months since the last attack. The tips of his wings had extended considerably, the gold veins protruding more and more with each passing day. His sage-green scales growing dark like the ground around him. He was chewing and burning the carcass of a coyote he had killed, working hard to sever the head from the neck. Emeraldo, thank the five we found you, Sharon exclaims, closing the distance between the two, making sure to keep her distance, though. Some protective thoughts were entering her head from Emeraldo. Assumably, he was trying to protect his most recent meal. All right, Sharon, let's get Emeraldo Braun's sentence is cut off as an arrow nearly goes straight through his temple, but lands solidly in the tree next to him. Next one goes through your head. A deep, mysterious voice amongst the trees rings out into the clearing. Emeraldo goes on guard, with the golden thorns on his back picking up, and his sage-green ears doing the same. "Reveal yourself, now!" Sharon yells, while raising a protective hand towards Emeraldo. "Fine," the voice says, and from the forest line, a tall elf emerges, dressed in blue camouflage, and blonde hair. He had blonde hair the color of the sun. He was quite a sight, and Braun felt a pang of jealousy inside, as he noticed Sharon blush the colors of red at the sight of him. "State your business here, elf. We'll have to send you on your way," Braun says, a frustrated look on his face. "Oh, nothing much. I just suppose the resistance could be interested in this." He removes from his backpack a dark blue egg with white veins about the size of a dazzle ball. Braun and Sharon both gasp. "Where did you find that?" Sharon inquires. "I found it by the riverbed one day while out hunting, and have had it with me ever since," the tall elf replies with a shrug, placing the egg inside his backpack. "We need to get back to Outpost now. King Danfon scouts will ambush us any second," Braun mutters. The trio make their way back to Outpost, passing through the gate, past the market stalls, and when the sun was at its peak in the sky, they arrived at Grand Maester's Hall. The trio enter Grand Maester's Hall, walking in on the sight of the Grand Maester's Elf Queen putting Jace's Elf King into checkmate. "Bah! Blast you, Grand Maester! Bah! Blast you, Grand Maester!" Jace shouts, frustrated by his defeat by the hands of the older man. "That's just the way things go sometimes, Jace," Grand Maester says, rather wisely, rising from his chair at the Dazzle Elf's chessboard and taking stock of the trio that has entered the room. "Now who might our new guest be?" Grand Maester asks, a perplexed look on his face. "Grand Maester, meet..." "Sorry, I don't think we got your name," Sharon starts to say, but is cut off. "My name is Robert," Robert the elf says, reaching his hand forward to shake the Grand Maester's hand. "Pleasure to meet you, Robert," Grand Maester replies, also reaching his hand forward and shaking hands with the new elf. "Robert, why don't you show the Grand Maester what you showed us?" Braun says, taking a seat next to Jace at the table. "With pleasure," Robert replies, hoisting the dark blue with white veins egg out of his backpack, resting it with some difficulty atop the Dazzle Elf's board table. "By the 5, not another one of the..." Jace starts to say, but before he can finish, Robert cries out in pain, "Ah! Ah!" grasping either side of his head, falling to the floor. Chapter 3. Robert. Our new elf found himself in a dark room. Water filled it up to his ankles, and he was immediately perturbed by this fact. "By the 5, now my feet are..." Robert is cut off by the sound of a loud roar. Roar! And a stream of blue and white flame light up the darkened room, revealing a blue dragon with white veins spreading like a spider web across his wings. "Robert," a voice sounds in the male elf's head, confusing him even further, if that was even possible. "What do you want?" Robert asks in a snotty voice. "You," the blue-scaled dragon seemed to reply to him, followed by a rush of frustration and anger flooding into his skull. "Fine, if it's me you want so bad, you can have..." Before Robert could finish that sentence, though, his consciousness was pulled from the dark, damp room, and he found himself waking up on the floor of Grand Maester's Hall. "It seems Robert has had a meeting with his dragon egg," Grand Maester says, sagely sitting back in his chair. "What in the name of the 5 was that?" Robert says, flabbergasted by the events that unfolded. "Your dragon egg wanted to just convene with you," Sharon says matter-of-factly. "Oh, well, that makes perfect sense," Robert says with an astonished look on his face. Suddenly, cracks appeared throughout the entire egg, and after a flash of blue light, a blue-scaled dragonling with white veins all across his wings, or her wings, appeared out of Robert's backpack. Rawr, the blue dragonling awes, turning his scaly blue head from side to side in a motion that reminded Bronn of Robert. Cute one, ain't it, Grandmaster? Bronn says, a flicker of a smile touching his formerly disgruntled face. Beautiful, Grandmaster says, looking at Robert expectantly. What would you like to name her? Grandmaster says. I shall name her Anne, after my dear mother, Robert says, reaching a hand out to the blue dragonling. A blue wave tattoo was already forming on his arm. From Anne, Robert was receiving warm connection thoughts into his head, giving the usually indignant-looking elf a friendlier face. Great, now we have another dragon to feed, Chase says in a joking tone. Him and Grandmaster stayed back, while Bronn, Robert, and Sharon made their way out into the courtyard in the back of Grandmaster's hall. Bristle and Emeraldo flew over to investigate their new cousin, giving him curious sniffs, causing the dragonling to sneeze, a cloud of blue and white flame. Bristle, Emeraldo, meet Anne. Bristle, Emeraldo, meet Anne, Sharon says, her autumn hair blowing ever slightly in the winter breeze. As far as size, Emeraldo had the group beat by a mile. The male dragon was at least the size of a cow now, followed by Bristle, who was the size of a large dog, finally Anne following with the size of a small cat. The three dragons were now all flying in a circle above the courtyard, their spurts of colored flame creating a beautiful pattern on red, green, and blue. By the 5, Bronn says, his head tilted up to look at the dragon dance. The wonderful dance of dragons came to its end. The three came to rest on the porch attached to Grandmaster's hall, sniffing each other in what turned out to be a rather comical dance. The new blue dragon, already displaying amazing signs of intelligence for a newborn, sent a spout of blue flame out, lighting all 5 of the torches aligning Grandmaster's hall porch. The dragons began to settle down, each curling up into a ball in their respective corners on the Grandmaster's porch, green smoke flowing from Emeraldo's nose as he snored softly. The elves of Alxis need to know that dragons have returned to the land of Underaf, Robert says matter-of-factly, taking a seat at one of the wooden chairs. Sounds like we need to go on a road trip back north, Sharon replies, also taking a seat next to Robert, much to the dismay of Bronn the Destroyer. The 3 compatriots agreed to head to the forest kingdom of Alxis in the morning. They even agreed that they should bring Phil along in order to give the lad a glimpse of what the world looked like outside of Underaf. With that matter being settled, the group turned in early for the night, getting a good night's sleep before their journey's end.